What is up, my Squirtle? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play Ōkami. In the last episode, we climbed Catcall Tower and made it to the top and received the power of Kabegame, which gives us the power of Catwalk. And in this episode, we're going to be continuing around North Ryoshima Coast and doing some exploring. Lots and lots and lots of writing to do in this episode. Lots of digging things up, gathering praise, and the like, as there is so much to be done here. This is just such a huge open area. So first things first, if you ever see a rock like this just float this underneath the water that just seems not to be significant, well, it actually is, because there's almost always a clam on it with treasure. So make sure you get that. And we're going to be in this over and over. But something I want to talk about right now is something that I feel I need to address, because I am sure that anybody who's watching this LP and does not feel the same way I do about this game is probably racking their brain or silently screaming about, because I seem to be unfathomably biased towards this game, and I am. But I would like to talk about something. I would like to talk about the negatives of Ōkami. Something that I have failed to address, and I think should have been addressed a while ago if I'm going to be so freaking, oh, this is the best game ever, end all be all about it. You know what? I can't do that. I can't do that. I need to give this game as fair treatment as I would any other game, and I will do that and not lose my voice in the process. Okay, let's get back on Orca, and then I can start talking about this. So a few things about Ōkami that I will admit, and I'm going to start actually with the latter gen stuff, because there is stuff that this HD version fixed that was not in that was a problem in the older games, specifically the Wii and the PS2 version. PS2 version, more specifically, the one thing it had that is a hinderment that none of the other versions have is really bad loading times. It's really slow. Now, they tried to make up for it by putting little mini games on the loading screen that allow you to get demon fangs, but most of them are really hard to complete, and sometimes they'll throw them up even if it's impossible to get it, because the load time will actually be really quick because it doesn't have a lot to load. That's just, I think, just a product of, like, the technology back then. You really can't fault it for that. I mean, it was a 2006. It was PS2. PS2 always had bad load times, so you can't really say that it's the game's fault, necessarily, I don't think. I don't think that's a fair judgment to make, but yes, it was a problem, and I will admit that fully. And then, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, jeez. I don't know why. This is not a good time to be losing your voice. You're just starting up the recording, you idiot. But anyways, and then as far as Wii only problems, and Wii actually has quite a few exclusive problems to it, mostly because of the way it was ported. The Wii version has, namely, I think the biggest problem with it is texture glitches, graphical errors, all that kind of stuff, because it was ported. And it was, the PS2 version had a very heavy grain filter to it. And in the Wii version, they tried to take it out completely. Well, unless you re-render everything without the grain filter on it, or take, like, the original product and then, like, remove it, which I'm sure that you would have to do, and, they're having to re-render the entire thing to get rid of the grain filter, you're bound to come up with some problems, especially if you're not the original designers of the product and whatnot. You're not redoing the animations all yourself, because they didn't do that. They just took it and they tried to basically peel the grain filter off. You can't really do that so well, and there's a lot of glitches on it, especially with, like, spherical objects, stuff like that, and then there's also glitches with terrain and a lot of phasing through things. Nothing that necessarily hinders the gameplay, but it's unsettling to the eyes. And before I go any further with that, let me talk about this real quick. This is a Divine Spring. Divine Springs, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to offer the maximum amount of yen 3 times. Now, I actually do not have enough to do that, but we will be getting back to this. So I'm going to toss it in twice, or one more time, and then after that, we will be coming back here later. So that is going to save that, but I want to toss it in the maximum amount one more time later, so don't worry, I'll get back to that. Anyways, Wii also suffers from a lot of control errors. It's very irresponsive in a lot of ways, namely with glaives. Glaives are definitely the most irresponsive primary weapons. They don't charge properly. There's just a lot of things about them that aren't responsive. Rosaries are not bad, although it involves a lot of jerking off the Wii remote, which is really awkward. It's kind of gross, and I don't know. They're not very comfortable to use. Really, I think the only comfortable weapon to use is the reflector in the Wii version. And also, okay, this is actually gonna be tricky because he is trying to come very close to me, and I want to get these treasures down here. So let's see. Can he get out of my face? All right, water dragon, please don't do this. All right, I'm gonna have to be very cautious about this. And then the most ineffective thing by a mile is the dodging system in the Wii version with the nunchuck. Oh my gosh, it's completely non-functional. Like, it doesn't work at all. So that's why a lot of people who play the Wii version say don't even bother buying Fleetfoot, because it doesn't work. I mean, it's not the most necessary thing ever, but it flat out it doesn't function, and it's kind of a shame, because that is sort of a fun mechanic to use, especially when you get the upgrade. That's why I haven't been using it much, is because I don't have the upgrade to it yet. But when you get the upgrade to it, I'll be using it quite frequently. And then I'm trying to think. Other things is, and this is for all 3 versions, okay? And I will admit these fully. The game does suffer from a few problems, and I guess, you know, some things are personal preference, like it copies from Legend of Zelda a lot, blah blah blah. You know, that's a fair criticism to make. I will admit, it is a very fair criticism to make, because it kind of does. You know, there's a 20 unit health system thing going on with it, and that's very much a Legend of Zelda staple. It's very easy and fair to say that yes, this game does copy from the Legend of Zelda formula, and I'm okay with that, honestly, because I think it just improves upon it. I mean, a lot of people who are like diehard Nintendo fans will complain about that and say that's not fair that it can do that, but then again, since when has Legend of Zelda ever had a trademark logo on its health system? Never, so you can't really say that no game is allowed to borrow certain mechanics from it. Now, this area, by the way, has another Divine Spring that we can toss money into. That I will be doing that later, because obviously I don't have near enough to do any of that stuff. But we'll be getting around to it, don't you worry. I just got to collect more money. And I also actually have to go see a merchant, because I haven't sold all the treasure I've got. That should actually help quite a bit. But anyway, another thing I will admit it suffers from is kind of samey storytelling. Like, the dialogue from the characters, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's very like intricately written, but it's not well written all the time per se. Like, for instance, a lot of the female characters have very identical dialogue. Like, just the way they act. I mean, it doesn't seem like you can't really tell a lot of personality differences with characters in this game all the time. That's kind of left up to your own imagination, I would say. Like, for instance, Kaguya, Kushi, and Princess Fusei, all 3 of them, you look at their dialogue, and you could, if you didn't see the faces, you could honestly think they're all the same character, because they act virtually the same. Like, they just have different, like, purposes, I suppose. That's, like, the only thing that separates them. And I will admit that's a little bit of a problem, but I mean, you know, a lot of adventure games types suffer from that. Another thing is that there is a lot of I am so sorry about that. I did not mean to. Oh, you are so forgiving. I will also admit that it suffers a lot from repetitive stuff. Like, as far as like just exploring the overworld and whatnot, it is very repetitive. It's a lot of the same exact stuff. And you know, if you have a problem with that, you're not a fan of digging things up, of, you know, searching out areas, scoping out areas, which, if you're playing an adventure game, you have to want to do that. But it doesn't, like, throw a lot of variety in how you get things, I guess. Like, sometimes it makes you use your new powers to get to stuff, but it's just, like, bare bones. It doesn't really ask you to do any more than that. Now, this is going to be nice, because I'm about to rack up my yen here. Here we go. And now I should be able to afford everything back over on those islands. Holy crystals! Jeez! You think that was enough? Okay, now I should definitely be able to throw the rest of the divine, the stuff into this yen into that divine spring. But I gotta say, my love from Ōkami, for Okami definitely is, well, for one, it's very circumstantial. When I first played it, it kind of came at a very difficult time, and it was something that helped me get past all that, and that's one of the reasons that I'm really attached to it. And you know, that's kind of the same with a lot of people's favorite games. You can't really say that objectively it's the best, because it usually isn't, but at the same time, you know, it's important to me for those reasons, and you know, that's why I like it. You know, that's why people like a lot of things, movies included, a lot of entertainment-based stuff, music. You know, I know a lot of people, you know, their favorite music album is determined on when they listen to it, the circumstances of it, and how it affects them, and you know, what memories it brings back. And that's the reason I love Okami so much. Objectively, this is not a perfect game, but I think as far as the traditional Legend of Zelda style action and adventure formula goes, I think it's handled it the best objectively. Like, I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but there's a lot of points. I think it has a lot of points going for itself where, yeah, it can say, oh, it's done this and this and this the best, because it really has. It's got the best dialogue. It's got the most unique characters, I think, even though that is sometimes a problem. I think, really the only thing it's flat out just opinion on, where it hasn't just objectively handled it the best, but it's just more personal preference, is the gameplay style. I know a lot of people like the swinging sword countering combat thing more than swinging divine instrument and using celestial brush style of fighting. You know, I mean, that's just personal preference for sure. But I think as far as like a variety of weapons goes, and this is the wrong island, and you know, the way it handles like just exploration and the environments and all that stuff, I think it does a better job just by far than Legend of Zelda ever has. And you know, I am personally getting sick of having to compare this to Legend of Zelda, but it is the game, you know, the only other game that really fits this build the best. No other games are really like this and Legend of Zelda. So they're really the only ones that you can compare, other than the games that absolutely suck. I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you, Star Fox Adventures. So let's head back down in this hole, and now I can put the rest of the yen back into the Divine Spring, and we can continue exploring. Ugh. And I'm sure there's a lot more I could say about this game, and I will definitely say it as it comes up in my mind, but I'm not really the best at thinking on my feet, I guess. I don't know. That's just me. And so we have Bakugami once again, and Bakugami is going to give us something very, very special, because we have inflated his bank. We have invested in his cause greatly, and with interest comes special divine powers by this game's logic. So now we can actually create 2 cherry bombs at once. That's pretty cool, actually, and it is necessary for something later, so you're going to want to make sure you do this. But it's not really, I guess it's not the most effective thing outside of battle, because most things, you know, it's one crack and you can blow it up. There's cherry bomb 2. It is only really required for two other things later in the game, and I will get into those later. They're not for much later, or not until much later too, but it's not really the most effective thing in battle. It's just kind of a little bit of an upgrade. Now you can actually draw 2, and like the game will actually just allow, like you can have them far apart, whoop-de-doo. So if you want to blow people up separately, I guess that's a thing. But that's not as good as the other upgrade. There was another one of those divine springs, as I said earlier, on the other island, and we're going to want to head over to that one because that has a little bit of a better power. It's an upgrade just like the last one was, but it's a much better upgrade, I would say. So let's head over to this island, avoiding the water dragon all the time. And this one is one that I have been longing for quite some time. So let's power slash our way through this, and every single time you get a power slash through this, you get a power slash through all the pots, which gives you lots of feedbacks and money and such, so that's kind of good. And this one we're going to need to throw in the maximum amount of yen 3 times, however, it doesn't require near as much as the last Divine Spring did. So this one only requires you to throw in 20,000 3 times, so we have plenty for that. We'll still have about 30,000 left over-ish. No, more than that even. We'll have 50,000 left over. So that's good. And one more time. And this time we are going to come face to face with an old familiar friend, Tachigami. And Tachigami is going to give us an upgrade to the Power Slash. Now, no, it's not going to give you an ability like double Power Slash, because if double Power Slash would totally conflict with Mist and cause a lot of problems. No, it gives you an upgraded more powerful Power Slash, which will do double damage, double the damage of the original Power Slash, so that's pretty good. And on top of that, those red rocks, those iron rocks we've been seeing earlier, like the one we slashed through at the very beginning of the game with Susanoo, we can now slash through those on our own. So in fact, there's one right outside this Divine Spring that we can, that we're going to be able to slash. And underneath those are clovers that net you, I believe, I want to say it's either 40 or 50 praise. So that's a pretty freaking good thing to have. Like, honestly, that's very useful. And actually, I gotta better check how much praise, or how well we're doing on praise at the moment. Because, or after I bloom this one anyway, because maybe we might be able to upgrade something before I end this episode. So there's 40 praise, and... Astra Pouch or Purse. Let's go with the Purse again. So we can upgrade that one more time, we can upgrade that one more time, and then we can upgrade that a few more times. But I'm going to hold on to my praise. We have plenty more to get throughout here, throughout North Ryoshima Coast, but we'll be doing the rest of that in the next episode. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Squirtle King. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Play Ōkami very much, and I will see you all in the next one.